to his own temptation. Family Feud.
Brought to you by We Are the Caring Store, waiting to serve you. It's time to experience independent living. Visit us today.
SLB empowers my future.
As the world gets ready to mark International Women's Day 2025, I've been spinning it around in my head how to introduce the discussion this evening, and I'm trying to riff off CLR James. Is the Jamaican woman empowered? And if she's not, who will tell her how to be? That's the discussion I hope to have with three eminent, prominent, aptly qualified women on this show on this day as we prepare to mark Saturday coming as International Women's Day. Let's start the show. Late great Trinidadian CLR James wrote, he said, Caribbean people do not know who they are and nobody will tell them, rather famously. So riffed on that in my opening. Welcome to Lead Story on this day. The question about the Jamaican woman and her place in society in 2025 and what she knows her place to be and what she has set as boundaries for herself, if any at all, comes into sharp focus as we prepare to mark International Women's Day 2025. And it might seem a bit rich that a gentleman is leading this discussion. Perhaps it is that we should have nominated a woman to host the show on this day. But of course, women are nothing without men, men are nothing without women. The atom can't be split, although I hear that they're splitting atoms these days, but it is quite opposite for me to be in this chair is the point I'm making. Iris Collins was the first Jamaican woman to be elected to a seat in the Jamaican Parliament in 1944. She won the seat to become the Member of Parliament in St. James Northwestern, beating the legendary Alan Coombs. And from then till now, women in Jamaican politics, there has never been, well, there is no high office that no woman has held. Perhaps Governor General, though some will say, well, it's ceremonial and we've had a woman Prime Minister, so the fact that we haven't yet had a woman GG is nothing really, but that's still a boundary that the women have yet to populate, if we may call it that. Why are we discussing this issue this day? I've said that Saturday is International Women's Day, but beyond that, why is it significant to have this kind of conversation now?
International Women's Day is dedicated to honoring the achievements and contributions of women across the globe. In Jamaica, this day holds a special significance as the nation reflects on its strides toward gender equality, particularly in the realms of politics and business. Jamaica has made tremendous progress in female political representation. The island was the first English-speaking country to achieve universal adult suffrage and grant women the right to be elected to Parliament. As at August 2020, women occupy 18 of the 63 seats in the House of Representatives, accounting for 29% of the legislative body. This marks the highest female representation in the country's history. Notably, both the Jamaica Labour Party and the People's National Party have achieved a 29% female membership in the House, setting a record for any political party in Jamaica. The journey toward women's political participation in Jamaica began with Iris Collins' election in 1944, making her the first woman to serve in Parliament. Since then, numerous women have broken barriers, including Rose Leon, who became the first female cabinet minister in 1953, and Portia Simpson Miller, who served as the country's first female prime minister from 2006 to 2007, and again from 2011 to 2016. Beyond politics, Jamaican women have also made remarkable strides in the business sector. A 2015 study by the International Labour Organization, ILO, revealed that Jamaica boasts the highest proportion of female managers globally, with women holding 59.3% of all managerial positions. This figure is more than double the global average. This trend places Jamaica ahead of countries like the United States, where just over 40% of managerial roles are held by women, and the United Kingdom with 34.2%. Despite these achievements, challenges remain. Women continue to be underrepresented in top management positions, and there is a noticeable trend of women being appointed to ministries traditionally associated with their gender. Addressing these disparities requires ongoing efforts to break down existing barriers and promote women to leadership roles across all sectors. The theme for this year's International Women's Day is Acceleration and Action, acknowledging the progress, empowering women to continue their participation in all aspects of society. So Jamaica sets a powerful example for women across the Caribbean and the world. But is there still work to be done? We discuss on Lead Story.
What a wonderful collage. More after the break.
It's a new week with new possibilities. Miss Kitty and Dennis are kicking things off with a presidential story in Diaspora Link Up. Then it's off to class with financial guru Carlton. We'll get into some JPL action and wrap things up with some words of inspiration in Mic Check. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.
Jamaica, it reach! Introducing the Mother's Rewards app. The same mother's food you love, now at your fingertips. Sign up easy and get a free patty. Earn points whenever you visit any select Mother's location and redeem those same points for discounts later on. Order your favorites for pickup or delivery. No long lines. Plus, spin daily to win prizes and discounts. Yes, daily chances to win. No need for say nothing more. Download the Mother's Rewards app now. Mothers, loving every bite.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Well, we've had our guests online for some time, and you know what they say, never keep a lady waiting. So Shelley Ann Weeks, she's an activist and founder of Her Flow. She's in the studio with me, very, very well attired, as usual. Dr. Diana Thorburn, Director of Research at Capri, is online. So too is Judith Wedderburn, Gender and Development Advocate. Ladies, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, sir.
Diana, am I hearing you?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks for having me, George.
Okay, Judith, good evening. Are you hearing me?
Yes, good evening, George. Welcome. Good evening, sisters, all.
There you go.
Hi, Judith. Saw you this morning. Are you following me around?
Oh, it is the other way around.
Here we go now. I want to ask an opening question that it's the same question I'm going to put to you. So I'm going to go, of course, to Shelley, who's in studio with me, and then I'll go to Diana and Judith, who are online. Shelley, have we done enough for and by women in this country for us to be held up in the highest places in the world as an example of how a country should facilitate the advancement of its women?
Well, I'm tempted to just say no, but I don't want to just say no without recognizing that we have done a lot and that we have gotten to a lot of good results. There are a lot of things that were fought for, and I'm happy to see Judith here because she is a part of the team that did a lot of the fighting back, earlier in the mission, and so we have achieved quite a few things, but we do have quite a ways to go. I am happy to say that Jamaican women enjoy some things that a lot of people in first world countries are still fighting over. For example, menstrual products in Jamaica are not taxed. Like when you go to purchase them, we don't pay GCT on them. The United States still have tax on their menstrual products. So just that is very important to me because, these products are necessary and expensive. But like I said, I think that we have done a lot, but we still have a lot of work to do.
All right, so it's no with a couple of paragraphs. Very well.
Yes.
Diana, may I put the same question to you?
Yeah, I probably have a similar answer, but I think that my things to be done are still with, the structural issues that keep women paid so much less than men. Women in Jamaica earn about 61% of what men earn, despite all the progress that we've made, despite women overperforming or outperforming men academically, being the majority in our educational institutions. So I'd say that's something that we need to work on. But I think I'd like to see, we have all these women in Parliament. We're at this historic high, and I haven't seen those women use their, whatever woman power they're supposed to have brought with them to be advocating for some of the issues that I was hoping they would advocate for. I haven't seen any meaningful advocacy on children's issues, on other issues relating to women, including the gender wage gap, which there are policy measures that can be applied to some of those gaps that still exist.
Judith, same question to you. Have we done enough to be held up as an example in the highest places of how to facilitate the advancement of women?
Well, every time that particular data about how well women are doing in managerial positions, that's what you said, right?
Well, overall, Judith, well, I didn't restrict mine to managerial. I'm talking overall, yeah.
What the ILO quote.
Yes.
But they're not CEOs, except for a few.
Yes.
Very few. And I want to support what Diana said. Despite a wonderful 29% of women in Parliament, which is an achievement, and I agree. Where is the woman power?
Yes.
Represented through the voices of the women in Parliament. And that leads me to what is even more disturbing. The size of the cabinet is what, 17, 21? I can't keep track of. To the best of my knowledge. There are 3 women in cabinet. Do we have more than 3? 4. Education, finance, gender,
foreign affairs,
whatever, and
foreign affairs.
Foreign affairs.
Yes.
Foreign affairs. But even so, that is
Malahufort, 5.
5. That is not something you want to jump and wave about. 5 out of what? 17, 21? That's just not good enough. So, and the cabinet is where the decisions are made. So while we look at this wonderful 29% of women in Parliament, and I agree, I expect to hear more from them on all kinds of issues, not just gender issues, but issues related to the quality of our education that takes the challenges facing both young women and young men into account, etc.
Yes.
It is in the cabinet where these decisions are made, and they're hopelessly outnumbered.
Yeah.
When we talk about the 29%,
yes,
you need to remember that the power doesn't rely there. It lies in the cabinet.
Well, here's the thing, ladies, and we didn't ask people of your repute to come here to talk the usual things that will be spoken of in a discussion like this stage. I'm going to provoke the 3 of you, because here's the thing. Have we had, in our experience, the women who we've had in significant leadership positions? I remember as a boy, how well Bev Lopez led the private sector organization of Jamaica, and that did something to me in terms of showing a woman who was able to take charge of the most important private sector lobby in the country, and perhaps in the English-speaking Caribbean, being led by a woman and led so adroitly. So that was a mark. So it's against that background I ask, have the women who've held the high positions in society, whether in politics or in business or in academia, have they put a woman's stamp on that position, whether prime minister or otherwise, sufficient for people to say, you know what, we would do better if more women were given the opportunity to take these big roles rather than the men who come cycle after cycle and we can't see any tangible result for them being there?
Well, that question would be very important if that's how it happened, if that's how it worked. It's not as if we have a tribunal of people just sitting around looking at how the women performing and go, ooh, there we go. Finally, we have a woman who did it right. Let's multiply her and make more of those women. Sometimes it's a question of opportunity.
Yes.
And to your point, there are still, I mean, as much as we talk about the progress that women have made, there are still certain things that happen with men and the way men operate and the way men look out for each other and mentor each other that allows certain things to still occur in the way it is right now. So, for example, the All Boys Club still exists. Deals are still made in social spaces, and decisions are still made when they're having drinks at the bar, and the woman is usually not a part of that conversation. Yeah. So, realistically, that's not how we look at it.
But hold on. Here's the thing now. Both Diana and Janet have said it. The coalition of women in the parliament.
They don't have an issue.
Hold on, but you don't see the evidence of them coming together and using the power from the position that they are to put an imprint sufficient for those who aren't as informed as certainly the three of you are. To say, boy, no man, but see, this is a woman's stamp on this thing. This is why we need more women. That's all I'm asking.
No, and I think you're correct, and everybody has the same sentiment where that is concerned, because even as far as I'm concerned, as a young woman who's saying, all right, what if I wanted to throw my hat in and be a part of the coalition of women in parliament? It doesn't feel like a coalition. It doesn't feel like there is even a space for me to go and say, all right, ladies, I want to be a part of this thing. I want to be a part of the change makers in our country. How do I do it? Can you help me?
Let me get Judith's perspective before I go to the break. Judith, your point.
So, you want, even if you are to make that advance, you first have to join something called a political party.
Yes.
You don't get there unless you're sworn to agree, support, defend the policies of your party in parliament. Now, I ask you to think about that, what that means. When in parliament, there's regular shifting of power, and you must have enough votes on this side to pass the bill. And no matter at that point whether you're male or female, what they want is a number of votes to pass the bill.
But you see, so the question, I'm going to come back with it, and then I'm going to give you a stab at it after the break, because that's what I really wanted to explore when I knew that the three of you were coming here this evening. More on Lead Story after this break.
Join my private room. Only $1,000 for a grand time.
That I know me. We never said that. But who going to believe me?
That is correct. $4,350,000. Yes, go ahead. $4 million? I never approved that.
Yes, me go doctor tomorrow. So me have to get the money today, no longer. Then no me face that. We never make no record or beg nobody no money.
Deepfakes are AI-generated images and videos made to look and sound like people we know and trust. They're used to spread misinformation, destroy reputations, and are used to commit fraud and scams. Don't fall victim to deepfakes. Protect yourself. For more information, visit broadcastingcommission.org or scan the QR code on screen.
Rise with Sunrise. It's a new week with new possibilities. Miss Kitty and Dennis are kicking things off with a presidential story in Diaspora Link Up. Then it's off to class with financial guru Carlton. We'll get into some JPL action and wrap things up with some words of inspiration in Mic Check. You've never seen a sunrise quite like this.
Welcome back to Lead Story here on CVM TV, a day before the world marks International Women's Day. And we're talking with three women, Diana, Judith, and Shelley, about the advancement of Jamaican women and the empowerment of them. Of course, recently, Dolly Parton lost her husband. Dolly, was one half of the duet who did Islands in the Stream, That Is What We Are. And I was saying to Shelley offset that perhaps it is that Jamaican women in high positions behave as if they're islands in the streams rather than forming those close-knit networks to make their mark in their positions and to inspire others to come along with them. And that's what I want to pick up with you, Diana, because I want to hear you on the women in these positions and how well they work the opportunities that they have to ensure that many more young women become starry-eyed, want to emulate them in the way that the men have done over time, and whether or not there's something for a new girls network to counter the traditional contribution of the old boys network.
Well, let's say that I would say the biggest barrier to women's advancement, whether in politics or professionally, is unpaid care responsibilities. That is a gendered division of labor that is probably going to be with us forever. But there are policy measures that can be applied to reduce the burden. And those policy measures, if enacted, can have benefits not only for women, but for the businesses that support their workers' care responsibilities, for overall productivity. Now, those policy measures, one would think, would be advanced by women in the political position to do so. So, for example, the women in cabinet or the women in parliament. It wasn't until 2023 that a women's caucus was actually formed. Some nearly 3 years after the election, where we had this historic number of women and historic proportion of women in the parliament. I haven't seen anything from before the caucus was formed, or even or since the caucus has been formed.
That's the point.
To put forward a policy recommendation that would meaningfully affect women's lives and children's lives as well, and the broader society and economy that is very gender specific. So I don't think it's enough to have women in these positions, whether it's 5 in the cabinet or 29 in the parliament. I think there needs to be some broader sense of these are the things that can be done, whether by women or anyone else who cares about the advancement of women. And to me, that should be the conversation that we're having. Why is it that we're not seeing this, all these women in all these positions of power putting forward or advocating for changes that would make meaningful changes, that would reduce the gender pay gap, that would get more women into the workforce, that would make women more productive, that would be better for children's outcomes, since women are the main caregivers of children, and so on.
And that is exactly the stencil for the conversation that we're having, because again, we're saying strength is in numbers.
Yes.
And you break through barriers. I mean, one person can break through a barrier, but if there's a group of you, a coalition, there you go. And as Diana says, there needs to be this coordination of effort. So what would it take for the women to align forces, notwithstanding political differences, to achieve the kind of legislative changes and mindset changes that are needed in a society like ours?
Well, I don't know what it's going to take for them, but perhaps they can't agree on a specific list of items that they should be championing. Maybe we should give them some ideas. Maybe that's what they need. Maybe they need to have a space where we can brainstorm and say, all right, let us talk about it and come up with 10 things.
But that's what the parliamentary sitting was for.
I have some ideas.
Yes.
I'm sure Diane has some. I'm sure Judith has a whole book full of ideas.
Yes.
Because maybe that is the issue they're having, because the truth is there are so many things that Jamaican women need right now that can immediately change their lives, improve their quality of life, help with the childcare. Childcare is expensive. So just that alone can make a massive difference in the lives of women who have to take care of these children.
Yes, excellent point. And the point that Diana made, childcare is very enervating and weighs on a woman's ability to do other things. Judith, the time has run out fast. May I ask you if you believe that it will take someone like yourself, given your experience, to say to this historic female grouping of parliamentarians that we have, to say, ladies, perhaps it is that we need to agree on a set of things that we will champion together, putting partisanship aside and trying to set the tone for the next cycle, the next generation. Is that something you'd volunteer your time to?
You're going to hold me to it on national public TV. I said that, but I'm serious. I do believe that our women in parliament of both sides need to have the courage to step out of this silo of a political party and say to their one another, look, just as you just said, we've been saying, there are some things that together we can do to achieve progress for women in critical areas. Does it mean building more creches so that, you know, people who under women who don't earn big money can send their children to a decent space to go to school? Are they willing to step out and do that? I really don't know. What I do know is that there are women outside of parliament but that would be willing to work with a group of women like that from both sides to say, look, we're not joining your party.
Right.
But we know that there are issues.
Yes.
That if we work together, we'll help to advance women's rights, to gender equality, and therefore improve the conditions of the family, because it's the family in the end that benefits if childcare is good and if the boys get good education in school and they don't end up choosing a gang because they don't feel loved at home. All of those things, it's very complicated, but I do believe that that is what needs to happen. And I believe there are people on the outside, and women on the outside will be more than willing to work together to support a kind of coalition, knowing that the power to change these things rests in parliament through policy or in the...
My producer is a woman and she's chasing me out of the studio. Thank you very much, Judith. Thank you, Diana, for your time. And thank you very much, Shelley. All right. Is there a woman coming to read the news at 7? I suspect so on this Friday. That's my time on Lead Story. Good evening.
Difference is made, where titles are decided, where respect is earned. Excel here and you could go down in history. It's the final third. CVM TV's weekly JPL preview show every Sunday, starting 30 minutes before our live broadcast. Get insight, analysis, and hear from your favorite players weekly, just before we bring you our feature broadcast for the day. Move from defense to attack and join us in the final third. This and every Sunday until the end of the JPL season.
Sports should be fun. Sports should be interesting. Sports should be entertaining. Sports should be riveting. This is CVM Sports. I'm Jordan Ford.